I would like to relate what was going on at the time when we were able to go into Yechidus Protis, into a private Yechidus to the Rebbe. I want to relate the Seder and the feelings that went along with it, that the Bochurim had. Now, for sure, the feelings and things like that, and what the Bochurim did as a preparation for Yechidus was not the same by all the Bochurim. So all I could say over is the experience that I had, but I know that B'derach Klal, generally, this was the experience that most of the Bochurim had. Now, different details probably were there, but generally speaking, this is the same experience. Used to go in every year before your birthday. The closest Yechidus to your birthday. Now, sometimes the birthday was in a time when there was no Yechidus, because there were certain times of the year where there's no Yechidus, so you would go in before that. For instance, myself, since my birthday is in the middle of the summer, and during the summer I would go to camp, or basically to Merke Shlichus, so I would go into Yechidus a few weeks before in honor of my birthday. But the Seder by the Bochurim was that at least 7 days before the Yechidus, you knew that you're going in, you had your appointment to go in. So 7 days before, at least 7 days before, the Bocher already became a different Bocher. Became serious, would daven differently, learn Nigla and learn Chassidus, be very careful with the Sedorim of the Yeshiva, stronger in Yiras Shamayim. Because we felt that when you go into Yechidus, the Rebbe would look at you and he sees everything. So at least outwardly, the last few days should be good, and the Rebbe should only see good things. That your levushim, so to speak, your garments, your spiritual garments, should be clean when you go into Yechidus. Just like a person wouldn't go chas v'sholem into Yechidus with dirty clothes, so you have to clean your clothes, so you have to clean your levushim of machshava dibra maaseh. The Bochurim would learn Krishma Shalamita differently, in a more serious way. During that week, you could tell on a Bocher that he's preparing himself to go into Yechidus. Even a Bocher that wasn't from the top Chassidish Bochurim would behave that way. Obviously, there were different levels, but even a simple Bocher, but the week before Yechidus would be a different Bocher. For instance, not every Bocher went every day to the mikveh, but that week he would go every day to the mikveh, things like that. And you spent more time learning the Rebbe's Torah, learning the Rebbe's Maimorim. Now the truth is that that time there weren't many Maimorim, the beginning of the Chavs, not too many Maimorim of the Rebbe, Mugi that you could learn. So you learned Bilti Mugi, you learned those few that were Mugi, like the Bosi Leganis, the few Bosi Leganis, and whatever other Maimor that was Mugi, Maim Rabin Tovshin Yud Zayin, and whatever was available from the Rebbe Sichas Mugi. But even the not Mugi, you would learn it, because that was the best preparation for Yechidus, which is the time of Iskashus. On the day of Yechidus, the Bochurim would fast. And therefore, the Maskirim would know that they would try to let the Bochurim in from the beginning of the Yechidus. They shouldn't be waiting for later because they'd continue fasting. So he would try to let them in earlier because they were fasting. A Bocher would put on a gartel under his jacket, even though Bochurim and Lubavitch don't wear gartel to davening and things like that. But going into the Yechidus, you would put on a gartel, but not over your jacket, but under your jacket, because it was known that when the Bochurim came in Tovshin Yud, the Russische Bochurim that came from France, and they came in Shvat Tovshin Yud, and they were going to went into Yechidus of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So the Rebbe at that time told them that he thinks that they should wear a gartel, but not to be beilet, so wear a gartel under your jacket. So the Bochurim would wear a gartel when they went into Yechidus under the jacket. And the whole day, the last day before you went into Yechidus, you would be extra careful in learning and davening. You would learn extra of the Rebbe's Torah, and you would say a lot of Tilim for that day, so you should be matzliach, and you're going into Yechidus. And certainly when you were ready to go into Yechidus, and standing there by the door, waiting for your turn to go in, which was moments of great seriousness, Bochurim would stand with Tilim, saying Tilim, and preparing more to going into Yechidus. And I will continue the next voice note.